Alright, so it's a rainy day outside, which you can tell by how clingy this dog is. And I figured it would be the perfect opportunity to stick this Ford 800 series tractor back together. Now you might remember there are two problems with this machine. One of them being that it had a pretty catastrophic leak right down here. Basically what was going on with that is that this tractor has the original hydraulics deleted on it, so an aftermarket pump can go on the front. And there's these tubes down here which used to flow fluid to the factory pump, which, like I said, this machine doesn't have. And I guess they're blocked off with this disgusting plate right here with some O-rings on it, and one of the O-rings came apart. So it shouldn't be that hard to fix, but we do have to get all this cleaned up. And then we're gonna change the pilot bearing in this thing and knock the rust off of that and try to shove it all back together. Lucky, stop hovering. No, go lie down. Go lie down. Good dog. I know it's raining. Alright, it's already 11:30, so I'm going to let that sit up. I'm going to go have some lunch, drink some warm coffee because it's like 30 degrees out here, and after that RTV has had a little bit of a chance to cure, I'll come back out and actually tighten down those bolts. I tried to run them in finger tight. I guess I didn't clean those threads as well as I thought because they were still a little gummy, so I had to use the ratchet, but that's not actually tightened down upon. And oh, that's good for that tap. Yeah, so anyway, overall I really like this tractor. I think Ford did a really good job engineering it, but I will be honest, I don't like the design of that plate with those two O-rings, especially because, you know, I've never made steel lines like what comes through that bell housing, but there's like a barb or something, like a sharp end on one of those flanges. I think that's what cut the last O-ring. I tried to put this O-ring in around it. I don't know why that's like that. I don't know why they built it that way. It seems kind of weird, but whatever the case, that's what RTV is for, right? Hopefully it won't leak even if this O-ring gets cut. So yeah, hopefully that does something. And the main reason why I want to do this now is because anytime, if you look here, the tractor's not actually level, it's tilted upwards a little bit. And the reason for that is anytime it isn't, stuff leaks out those tubes that we just patched over. And obviously the tractor needs to be a lot more level to put the engine back in, so hopefully that'll be at least a little bit oil resistant after lunch here. So yeah, let's see what happens. This job's gonna be a lot nicer once that wood stove warms up. Let's see how this is coming. It's like these bolts are the wrong size. Well, two of them. What in the world? That's not good. That's not the right size bolt, is it, buddy? Yeah, the trolls are right. I'm not capable of even the simplest things. Let's try the next size up. Alright, well, I'm not gonna lie, that was pretty weird, but it's fixed, so whatever. So here's something else that I'm going to take care of just while this is in here, since it's pretty much a perfect time to fix all these little things and further procrastinate on actually having to force the engine back in here. You'll notice on the side of this bell housing there's all these bolts for presumably attaching all kinds of various brackets and implements and the like. There's some on each side, and they are pretty nasty. They're all full of like rust and crud and everything. And I feel like since the front end and all those bars and everything that run to it are off here, this is pretty much a perfect time to take care of these. Now, I don't like to leave stuff open like that because, you know, it gets full of rust and corrosion and everything. What's really best in situations like this with open bolt holes and castings like that, in my opinion, is if we go through and clean out the threads, and then you just shove a bolt in there, ideally with some never sees or something. And that way, if you ever go to use it, it's clean, it's ready to go. And if you don't, that's one less spot for mud and dirt daubers and bees and everything else can get into. So I got those bolts in, and now we've got to work on removing that pilot bearing in there and also making an alignment tool so I can get this clutch disc positioned exactly where it needs to be, and hopefully all this will go back together. So what I've done is I took my thingamajiggers here and I made this basic schematic, and I've got a scrap of 1-inch aluminum here, which we will be using to turn this out of. So yeah, let's see what happens. I'm a little apprehensive because I don't think I've ever made one of these from scratch before, and I haven't fired up that lathe in quite some time. To be honest, I haven't done much of anything in quite some time because I was sick for like a solid month, but feeling better now. Oh yeah, and check this out. I bought this for a whole $6 shipping included on eBay. This is our replacement bearing. Revision September of 1994, so this thing is probably almost as old as I am. I don't know, I think this is so old, like it wasn't, New Holland wasn't even a Fiat company at the time. I think it was still just New Holland, or maybe Ford New Holland. So yeah, this is the bearing we got, and this is a Koyo. Yeah, Koyo bearing. This is, if I remember right, one of Mechanic Steve's favorites. I think he told me he likes Timken bearings and Koyo. Those are the two he always tries to get whenever possible. And made in United States. Wow, even printed in USA. That's how you know it's a relic right there. Let's see how big of an ordeal this old bearing's going to be to pop out of here. All right, watch your snout, buddy. Oh. Oh yeah, man, I love this thing. Wow, what a cruddy old bearing. So for those that are new, I split this tractor thinking it needed a clutch, but really the clutch just needed an adjustment. However, when I got in there, I discovered, oh yeah, it's all gritty. It's still working, but not by much. So I'm glad I caught that. So I'm over there working on the lathe, and this little guy who's usually content to stay away from me when I'm doing anything metalworking wise, he's poking at me constantly, and I'm like, fucking go away, leave me alone, I'm doing stuff. And he does this a couple times, I yell at him a couple times, and then it dawns on me that a log has fallen out of the wood stove and the building is currently filling with smoke. They really are our best friends. A machinist I may not be, but work it indeed does, doesn't it, buddy? Oh, hi. Here, get in frame so people don't think I'm talking to myself. Yes, clearly a dog. So the engine is finally back in the tractor, and I knew that was going to be a bit of a challenge to do, especially single-handed, but it was not a challenge for the reasons that I thought it would be a challenge. Luckily, the engine went in maybe 15 minutes. I think that's about all the time it took for me to position the gantry correctly, to adjust the floor jack to where it needs to be. And it was a pretty simple operation of just getting everything lined up, and it slid in place very nicely on, I believe, the third try. So, especially considering that I'm not a mechanic, I'm very happy with the way that turned out. But, oh my goodness, I've spent hours on this. My biggest complaint with this tractor working on it, well, just in general, so far I only have two. One, and I talked about this in another video, the shifter pattern on this is like circular. It's really weird. I don't like it. And the main thing is that you basically need an entire hardware store in your backyard if you're going to work on this. What I mean is that, and I know I'm exaggerating here, but I feel like every single bolt on this tractor is a different size. I'm pretty sure like the connecting rod bolts, I haven't actually checked. I would guess those are probably all the same, all like 8 of them, and like the bolts that hold on the cover to the transmission and the rear end, those are the same. But other than that, let me show you this. So, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fasteners. And how many different sizes of bolts are these 8 fasteners? 1, 2, 3, 4. I know this looks kind of like that, but it's longer. 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, these are also different than that. That's right. You were following this correctly. Right, Lucky? Of these 8 fasteners, there are 7 different sizes of hardware. And this is, believe it or not, this is an improvement, because when I took the tractor apart, the original bolts were some of those where like the head is one size and the nut is the other. Now they're pretty much all the same size, but 7 different sizes of hardware across 8 fasteners. The other side is not quite as bad, because that's where the starter goes, so they just, quite frankly, they don't have room to put just a completely random menagerie of hardware in here. But still, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sizes of bolts on this side. Is it that bad? No, I am a little whiny because it's pretty close to the end of the day, and I'm not gonna get the front end on this tractor. Everything went pretty well. Quite frankly, I just didn't plan to spend literally hours figuring out what size bolts go in all these different holes and then putting together just this random menagerie of nuts and bolts. It's not that bad. The worst design I've ever seen on a piece of farm equipment ever is the oil pan on the WD and WD-45 Allis-Chalmers. It's a 5-piece quart gasket against very badly like rough cast stuff, and they all leak. It's horrendous, quite frankly. It's unbelievably bad. That will probably always be number 1, but I think the design of this that requires that much hardware, it's probably in the top 20 somewhere. It's not really a deal breaker. It's just one of those things you just have to plow through and get it done. And that's what I did. I probably took between 50 and 100 trips to the bolt bin over there, to be honest. And I mean, you can see how many wrenches and everything this took. There got to a point where I was like, you know what, life is too short, and I just started using the Pliers-Wrenches. I mean, it is really, really something. And I don't like to say, you know, blah, 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 this could have been done better, because that kind of insinuates that, you know, I'm saying like I could have designed this better than the engineers. And I don't like making statements like that. I don't take that very lightly. But I say again, there are 8 different fasteners, and of them are 7 different sizes of hardware. I don't care what the design requirements were or whatever. This just is not necessary. There's no reason why this needs to be like this. But, you know, alas, I did get it done. And I guess tomorrow we're gonna try to fit the front end back on the tractor. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more. You know, I always assume the reason why old farmers, like, they didn't live all that long is because they worked 120 hours a week and there's no safety guards on anything or whatever. But really, I think it's because you can only work on stuff like this for so long before you just completely lose your marbles. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Probably more of the same, but hopefully not that bad.